Let's go back to politics to wrap up this Thursday with my regular panel, Stephen Conroy and Michael Kroger. Stephen, how do you see the events of the week? What a crazy week it's been. Is it a net
It's been a
plus,
big week.
though? Is it a net win for the coalition? Because Barnaby Joyce, you know, he's got his faults, but he is a good communicator. And when he's given a brief and he's part of the leadership group, is that more of a threat for Labor, more of a difficulty to manage?
No, I think Barnaby is one of the better retail politicians in the Parliament, and I think his advocacy on behalf of regional and rural Australians, they will identify with him. And I think this will be a net positive for the coalition. I think you will have Scott Morrison walking around talking about, we'll be moving towards 2050 net zero emissions. And Barnaby has now put it out there that, as always, the National Party are available and they've just got to haggle about the price. There's some famous sayings about people in that sort of business. But he is basically saying to the people in regional rules, I will look after you, I will protect you, don't you worry, you know you can count on me. So they're going to be able to walk both sides of the street in a way that Labor has not been able to do. So I think ultimately on climate change that there will be a position reached where Morrison can pretend he's doing something and Barnaby will get a bucket load of money that he can spend as he sees fit. So I think that ultimately this will be a win-win for the coalition.
Yeah, I didn't think it would preclude Morrison from reaching that target that he's clearly set himself in, that where he's heading, Michael Kroger. Yep. And indeed, in terms of the retail politics, it's hard to disagree with Stephen on that.
Well, look, he is, whether people like him or not, he is a much more powerful voice in the areas that matter, which is in northern New South Wales and northern Queensland and parts of Western Australia. That's where the National Party, unfortunately, we're missing, being let down a bit by Michael McCormack, who, outstanding human being though he is not a strong retail politician and is not a strong media performer. And whether you like it or not, if the camera doesn't like you, you're not much good in politics in the modern era. He's earthy, he's brassy, he's aggressive, he's a bit nasty, but he's very rural. They're all and very authentic. They're all the things that make up Joyce. And country people would tend to feel a confidence in Joyce because he's a scrapper. Whereas the previous leader, Michael McCormack, was much more dignified than Barnaby, if I put it that way. And that means I think Barnaby's probably got, a better chance of holding on to votes and seats in the areas where the Morrison government needs to be re-elected. So I think a net positive.
And it goes to that point that Stephen, you made earlier in terms of being able to walk both sides of the street because they representing different constituencies and being different parties enables them to do that. Joel Fitzgibbon, his criticisms are never received in the same way, are they? Internally within Labor, he's seen as a pariah by many.
Well, that's right. As I said, we've not been able to reach a compromise yet. Even in the last few days, we've seen votes around gas and coal products. We've seen a Senate committee into a position that Labor has gone to the last election on, has had a caucus room debate in the last couple of months on, and in our national platform says gas is part of the future. And now we're voting with the Greens to set up an investigation into the Beetaloo Basin and gas. So the messages we keep sending by how we're voting are different to the words that we're trying to get out there. So I can understand Joel's frustration, and the party really has to come to terms with this. The people in Queensland, the people in Western Australia, they are not going to be fooled by a few words on a piece of paper. We have to walk the walk when it comes to wanting to secure their futures. And there's plenty of options for us to do that. But we keep getting our tail being, wagged by the Greens. And it is never a good day when Labor ends up voting with the Greens in the Senate or anywhere else. It's very bad for Labor. In my 20 years, bad time if you're voting for Greens motions.
And for Scott Morrison, Michael Kroger, we've commented on his pragmatism before. He is the ultimate pragmatist. He was going to find a way to negotiate with Barnaby, albeit maybe a little bit more thorny, the relationship, a bit more transactional than it was with McCormack.
Yeah. Look, Morrison is very pragmatic and he'll find a way. He turned water into wine during the leadership ballot. He had 5 votes and ended up with 45. He won the impossible election. He believes in miracles. He'll have sat down with Joyce and said, listen, are you interested in playing games and making a name for yourself as the Deputy Prime Minister that helped lose the election by splitting the coalition government, or do you want to be known as the man got re-elected? That's what Morrison would be saying to him privately, and they'll work things out. They're both very, very pragmatic. To take Stephen's point, if I look at Labor, they still can't find a way of mending this division between Fitzgibbon, who I think represents the best of the Hawke tradition of Labor, and everyone knows what that means, whereas I think Albanese represents the worst of the Whitlam tradition. And they can't reconcile the two, and Fitzgibbon's again been thrust into the national spotlight with his pretty powerful article in the Newcastle Herald after Mark Vale's resignation as incoming Chancellor of Newcastle University. The article written by Fitzgibbon was an absolute cracker. This guy's the spiritual leader of blue-collar Labor at the minute. And unless they find a way to encompass his thinking into this Labor Party coming towards the next election, they're going to get beaten again.
Yeah. Michael is dead right there, Karen. Absolutely dead right. I mean, there is not a vote for Labor in this climate debate, as in a new vote. Okay, and so let me remind my colleagues, I was in Parliament before Barnaby Joyce. He ran for the Queensland Senate, promising, hand on heart, I will not vote for the privatisation of Telstra. 4 or 5 years later, for $2 billion of a slush fund, he voted for the privatisation of Telstra. He will do a deal. So there'll be a bit of colour and movement. He'll want to look like he's being tough. He'll want to look like he's negotiated a package. But there is going to be a settlement, and there is no new votes in trying to spend your time talking about the split between the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister. They will do a deal. Get them back onto the issues where they are incompetent, the vaccine rollout. They have stuffed this up. They're now hiding behind a uniformed general, so try and stop people asking questions about their competence.
That's the key for them, to get it back there. That's where it seems all roads lead, if there are any chance. Stephen, Michael, gentlemen, have a great weekend. Nice to see you both.
Cheers. Thanks,
Good to see you.